Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some comfort, camaraderie, and conversation and keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is Phantom Cry Syndrome. Do you get this? I still do when I'm having a shower, and mine are 2 and 3 now, but some nights I get them to bed, get in the shower, and lo and behold, I hear crying. And 9 times out of 10, they're still fast asleep and fine. And I know this is way more prevalent in the early days. I remember every time I went to take a bath or have a shower when they were really young, I would hear crying subconsciously. And maybe it's our mother's instinct. I don't know, but phantom crying keeps you on your toes while showering. Firstly, tonight, I just wanted to say hello to all of my new listeners. Welcome. I have seen a really big spike in downloads this last week, and which is great to see. So if you're new here, I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope it's given you some company and reassurance and a little bit of a lift while you're up during the night. I actually had a lovely email from a listener called Christina in Italy, and she was saying how comforting it is to know that there are so many new mums up all around the world going through this together during the nights. And I totally agree. And it's part of the reason I set this up, because I know those early weeks and months can feel lonely sometimes, especially if you're struggling or, when the tiredness kicks in and there's nights when you think, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to pull myself up out of the bed? And you feel like you're functioning on 2 hours sleep in an entire week. And those times are tough. So to know that there's a whole community of us all around the world. I mean, I have mums listening from all 6 continents. So literally all around the world, which I think is amazing. And we're all united up on these nights, crazy tired, trying to get through on no sleep if you are very new to being a mum, some sleep if you're in toddlerhood, but we're all doing it. So I hope this is helping to spur you on especially when you're really feeling it, because we all do. And it's great to lift each other up and remind each other that there's so many of us out there going through this right now. And especially those of you that are in those newborn days, to hear stories from me and other mums who are, in the toddler age and can tell you categorically it gets better, it gets easier, and you will get through it and you will function on the lack of sleep. It's incredible what our bodies are able to do. So keep going. And I hope this is giving you that little lift. First off tonight, I had an email from the lovely Jessica in Namibia, and she said that she wants to try combination feeding, feeding formula at night and breastfeeding during the day. In your opinion, what are the pros and cons of this? Okay, so I did a little bit of combination feeding with my first when I think it was during the first week, and I crumbled with breastfeeding. I know I've talked about this on the podcast, but it was so painful for me. And I remember ringing my mum in tears on day 3 saying, what do I do? I'm in agony. It was true agony. And she said, go and get Jason to go and get some bottles, get some of them pre-made little bottles and give us some of that so that you can have a rest and you can have a break. And she was like, it's completely fine to combination. It's there when you need it. And honestly, that was the biggest relief, because I was in a lot of pain at that point. And I know Jessica, who's wrote in, is obviously doing this for a different reason. She wants to formula feed at night and breastfeed during the day. She's established breastfeeding now, so this is a different situation. But my situation was very early on. And I remember that night, Jason got the bottle and he gave it to her at 11. And I think she slept till 3, which was a first, because with breastfeeding, she seemed to be waking up every hour. But that gave me such a mini break. And then a couple of weeks after that, she started refusing the bottle, and we went to exclusively breastfeeding then, but my nipples were better. I'd established the latch more, the pain had gone, and it was like the little bit of respite that I just really needed. So for me, that was my kind of one and only experience of combination feeding. But from my point of view, it helped get me through those early weeks of breastfeeding and give me a little rest in between, and helped me to then exclusively breastfeed. So I know everyone's journey is different, and there'll be healthcare people listening to this saying, no, your milk supply can drop if you do that. Be careful with that. But for me and my personal experience, it actually really helped. So I have done a little bit of research, because I'm not medical, and this is not by any means medical advice, what I'm about to give you, but I've looked up the pros and cons of combination feeding to try and give you a little bit more insight. So number one on the pro list is flexibility for parents. It allows somebody else to feed the baby and gives the mum a chance to rest or take a break or whatever you need to do. Number two is nutritional benefits. It says it combines the antibodies and nutrients of breast milk with convenience and supplementation of formula. So it's basically saying that you're still getting the nutrition from the breast milk, but you're also getting the supplements from the formula. And it's helpful if the mum's supply is low or the baby needs additional calories. Number three is, it says partner involvement. I get this one, and I get that it's good to have the involvement, but I don't see that as a key argument, because I think your partner's involved anyway. I know in the first few months to the year, if you are exclusively breastfeeding, the baby is with you a lot, obviously. But Jason was always like, well, he got that. He never felt like pushed out. He was like, well, the baby is feeding, and that's fine. And I suppose if you're wanting to share that, then combination is a good idea. But if you're okay with not, then exclusively breastfeeding is fine. And number four is convenience when out and about. It says formula feeding can be more convenient when out and about. I kind of disagree with that one, though. I used to find breastfeeding was very convenient. I just like the convenience of being able to feed anywhere, in the car, on a park bench, in a cafe. And I know you get some places that they put the sticker on the door, breastfeeding friendly, which I just think should be a given, because I think it's so natural. But my personal experience was not having to mix the formula and heat the bottles and sterilize when out and about. I actually found easier, but I know some people would disagree. So now on to the cons of combination feeding. So number one is the impact on breastfeeding supply. So as Jessica has asked, you're thinking of formula feeding at night. You'd have to just be aware that if you do it all night, your milk from say 9 till 6 or whenever would decline. Mine did slightly, because I did it for a couple of hours in that initial week, but it seemed to build back up again for me. But yeah, if you are going to commit to formula feeding all night, just be wary that your breast milk during the night, your supply would drop. There's another thing called nipple confusion. Some babies may struggle to switch between bottle and nipples, which could cause frustration. Now, I know my eldest did that when we tried to give her a little bit of formula when she was about 4 months, because I think I had a wedding to go to, and I thought, well, maybe we could give her a bottle for the night, and she wouldn't take the tea. She was like, she just wouldn't have it. And that is something that exclusively breastfeeding mums can struggle with when they want to get them onto the bottle. So that's just something to bear in mind. I don't know if your baby has taken the bottle before, so that could be different. Number four is time and preparation. It requires preparation for formula, sterilizing bottles, measuring the formula, which can add complexity compared to breastfeeding. I suppose that's just in the nights, isn't it? Getting up and doing the bottles. is different to breastfeeding. That's just something to consider. The next one is cost. Formula can be expensive and costs add up quickly compared to cost-free nature of breastfeeding. Again, something to consider. Obviously, moving on to formula is an added cost. And that's all of them. So they're the pros and cons of combination feeding. And I mean, this is just online. So this isn't a medical professional, remember, and this is not anyone's opinion. This is just a few different things to consider. But ultimately, you have to do what's right for you and the baby. And that's why I always say, if people want to exclusively breastfeed, great. If people want to exclusively formula feed, great. If people want a combination feed, great. It's what works for you. And that's what you have to take into consideration, I think. At the end of the day, it's you and your baby and your family, and thinking about what works for you. But those are the initial pros and cons that I found online. I hope that helps. If anyone else has any experience of combination feeding and you would want to share those with Jessica, please write in. I think any experience is helpful. I hope that helps. Next tonight is an email which is entitled, "Friend came over with her sick baby and got my baby sick. Hi Charlotte, I'm loving the pod. I have a 4-month-old and it's really helped me through the nights. I have a rant as this made me so upset. My friend has an 8-month-old baby and my boy is 4 months old. A few days ago, I asked her if she wanted to come over. I'd put my baby down for his nap and came out to find her baby covered in snot, congested and coughing. I asked why she was so snotty and my friend said she's teething. Now, my baby isn't teething yet, but I was sceptical, mostly because of the cough. She said she'd been to the doctor and the doctor said she wasn't sick, but I'm not sure if this is true or not. And she also mentioned that the night before, her baby had had a fever. Fast forward to today, we are all sick. Oh, gosh, I can't believe she would come over with her baby in that state without even letting me know. Like, she had to know there was a possibility her baby was sick, but came anyway. After she left, I did everything in my power to clean up the potential germs, but ultimately it mustn't have been enough. Now I'm up at 4 a.m. because my baby isn't sleeping due to the congestion. After this situation, I honestly don't know if I want to be a friend anymore. Am I overreacting? Oh, you poor things. It's tough being ill, let alone with a 4-month-old who is also ill. So I really, really feel your pain. It's so hard for them breathing at night, isn't it, with the congestion? It's a tough one because she's your friend and I have to be careful what I say. I personally, I would not have brought the baby over with congestion and after having a fever to a 4-month-old. I just always have it in my head that babies that young are super vulnerable. Even now, actually, that ours are toddlers, I'll tell my friends if they have a sniffle or a cough and say, happy to leave it with them being ill, up to you. I tend to give them the option. Even if I'm going to the park with my friend, I'll say, look, they're not well. Shall we leave it? And sometimes I'll say, oh, we'll just keep a distance at the park. It's fine. And I feel like when you put it out there that you are very conscious about this kind of thing, your friends reciprocate. And I think it stems from COVID for me, that it gave us so much more awareness of passing illness to others, and particularly babies, vulnerable babies under 6 months. You have to be careful. It's not all of us are on the same page though. And I don't think she did it maliciously, not that I know enough about the situation, but maybe she just wanted to see you. And I think next time it's worth dropping it in conversation and maybe referring to how last time we met, I did get sick and it is tough in the night with a 4-month-old. So if you could give me a heads up, even if you think it's teething, just so I can say yay or nay, basically. I think it's the most diplomatic way to handle it. But the more you lay down the law with not having your children around sick children and not bringing your sick children to children, I think people get it. And, I think in my friendship group, we all kind of mutually get that. And we've had play dates cancelled because one of our children are ill. And that's generally the rule of thumb for us. If the baby's ill, we cancel, because we know, and you know as parents, how tough it can be having a baby who's ill. It just is, isn't it? Even a toddler. Mine have had a cough this last week or two, and the nights are just so disruptive. And it's just takes parenting up a complete other level, doesn't it? So yeah, my advice would just be to be a bit more overt with making plans and discussing illnesses, and just saying, look, last time we got really ill, give me a heads up next time, even if you think it's teething, even if you've been to the doctor, just let me kind of make a decision on it, because 4 months is very vulnerable. And yeah, I hope that helps. That's my opinion. If anyone else has any suggestions on this, because it is quite a sensitive topic, with friends that don't necessarily get the gravity of it. I know some people aren't as bothered about kind of health awareness like that. They're a bit more like, oh, it's just a few germs, I'll get over it, it'll build immunity. That's how some people can look at it. And if you're more like me and you'd rather not get the germs, you kind of have to lay that out and say, oh, we're not coming because they're not too well today. And they'll kind of get the hint from that. But yeah, it is a tricky one. So if you've got any suggestions, please send them in. Next tonight, I have an email from a listener replying to one of our emails from last week. And this was about postpartum disappointment, if you remember, and how she lost some really close friends after having a baby. So this email says, hi, Charlotte. This is in response to the mum who wrote in last week about postpartum disappointment. Pre-baby, I had a very close circle of 5 girlfriends. Post-baby, I no longer see them. None of them have had babies yet, so I did at first give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't really get the gravity of these early months, but they hardly ever checked in at all. Like, hardly any messages. I'd have to be the one to start a conversation, and I feel like I've had to mourn that group, which was once so important to me. Fast forward 2 years on, and I've met the most incredible local mum friends. We have babysat for each other and treat each other's kids like our own. They have pulled me up and made me smile on days when I just want to curl up and hide. They have been an incredible support system, and I just want to echo your advice. Find mum friends. It'll be one of the best things you do. Oh, that's lovely. I'm sorry you had to go through that with your friends. I know it probably felt gut-wrenching at the time, but amazing that you now have such a wonderful group around you. So yes, find those mum friends. I found this post on a forum, which I thought might make you smile. So the original poster says, I'm going to come right out and say it. I miss my pregnancy boobs. They had never been that nice ever, and now they're worse than before. I also miss my pregnancy butt, just not as my boobs. However, I don't miss being pregnant. My husband and I have decided one and done for many reasons. Do you miss anything in particular from pregnancy? So here we go. Here's a few of the answers that they might entertain you a little bit. Number 1, I miss being able to suggest orange creamsicles at 9 p.m. and then magically appearing, and boobs. The only thing I miss from pregnancy is kicks. Someone else has said, I miss eating like a whole pizza in a bodycon dress with no shame. I love that one. Being able to nap at will. Daytime sleep eludes me now. Same. I miss the hair. I'm pregnant again and my hair has filled in again, and I'm trying not to be too attached to it because I know it's all going to fall out in a few months. Right before 40 weeks, I tried every fast food fry as a pregnancy solo mission without shame. It's not like I've never had fries before, but it all felt so right at the time. I love that one. I think that's so funny. Why not make the most of it when you're pregnant? If you have anything like this, write me in. Tell me what you miss from being pregnant. Tell me. thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. Next night is Social Media Says. This, again, is just my public service announcement to you new mums not to be swept up by social media at Christmas. I don't know what is going on with my algorithm at the moment, on TikTok particularly, but I keep seeing how much you're spending on your little ones this year posts, and I think it's just so damaging. Some of the answers are ridiculous. Like, just silly amounts of money on toddlers. And others are how they're really struggling this year. And I just think it's really polarizing. I think it's just not healthy knowing that and comparing. And we have to start with this comparison. I personally don't get swept up by it, by consumerism and those kind of things. And I hope for those of you listening, you don't either. But if there is a part of you that sees these posts and lets them impact you, then try and take a step back and think about what's really important. There's a lot of showing off on social media. There's a lot that isn't real. You don't know whether those people can afford that amount of presents or whether they're in over their eyeballs in debt. So take what you see with a pinch of salt and really try and not let it impact you or influence you. Your 2-year-old or your 6-month-old or your 5-year-old won't understand spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds versus spending, I don't know, less. And I just think it's awful the amount of pressure that's put on people nowadays because of social media. And it's your Christmas. You do whatever makes you happy. And I think that's the key takeaway, is whatever makes you and your children happy is the best route to go down without being pressured. It's very easy to be influenced by social media and think everyone's doing that, everyone's doing this, every kid's getting this, every kid's getting that. But particularly for babies and toddlers our age, I think it's just such a magical time that you can make magical without spending so much money. So yeah, it's just my little public service announcement to try and avoid all those trends. They're just quite toxic, in my opinion. Next tonight is my self-care suggestion. And tonight it is to have a 10-minute recharge. And by this, I mean taking 10 minutes just completely to yourself. This might be while the baby naps. This might be while your partner has the kids. This might be when you're in the car on your way to Home Bargain. Just have 10 minutes, just zone out, don't be on your phone, and just try and clear your mind and just breathe and just be and recharge yourself. Because especially going into Christmas during this time of year, it's so easy to get swept up with the busyness, swept up with the chaos. Everybody's busy. Everyone's got events on. Everyone's got Christmas shopping to do. Everyone's busy with work and kids' performances at school. It's just always something. So just try whenever you can to take 10 minutes out of your day and just have a breathe. Because I think it really resets your mind and it grounds you. And I think we all need to ground ourselves a little bit more and realize what's important. And having this little recharge, even lying on your bed, having a bath, I don't know, whatever, just without social media, without anything else, can really, really help. Finally, to finish on a quote I wrote: "Mama, tonight I just needed you. I felt safe in your arms as you rocked me gently in the stillness of the night. Each time you tried to lay me down, I woke because I didn't want to be away from you. I saw the tiredness in your eyes when you picked me up from the 4th time. The way your shoulders slumped as you whispered, 'Please just sleep.' But Mama, in your arms, the world feels calm, and I can rest knowing you're there. Your neck ached, your body begged for rest, but you still held me close. And when I looked up at you and smiled, I saw it. The way your eyes softened, the way your love wrapped us both in a quiet magic. I know this is hard for you. I know you're so tired it hurts. But Mama, to me, you are everything. My safe place, my home. One day I'll sleep longer. One day you'll have peaceful nights again. But for now, I just need you. And you are doing it, Mama. You are everything I need. I love you." Thanks for listening tonight. I hope the tips on combination feeding have helped, the pros and cons. Like I said, that is not medical advice. That's just a few pros and cons that I've found from researching. As always, keep your emails coming in. I really, really love hearing what you have to say. And I also really love how supportive this community is becoming. People replying to each other, people sharing advice. This is exactly what I'd like. So, yeah, keep your emails coming in. And I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.